Hi, Dani. Thank you once again for joining us on the Interviewer Insights section of Career Companion. As you mentioned, you're the talent manager for Swyftx, a very successful crypto company in Australia that hires top talent. So, we really want to ask you tonight a few questions, 7 questions. We ask everyone the same 7 questions, and we'd love your insight on these.
Oh, amazing. I'm excited.
Alrighty. So, to begin with, are your interviews more casual or formal, and do you follow a certain method? If so, which one?
I would say it's a combination. We definitely follow a formal process. So, pretty much no matter what role you're interviewing for in the business, you will always kind of follow that same process. So, for us, once you apply, a recruiter will kind of go through, they'll shortlist, go, this person looks great. And then you'll actually get a phone screen. So, the phone screen is the very first part. That is with a recruiter. It normally goes for about 10 to 15 minutes. And it's just that initial conversation to kind of find out those key things. Tell me a bit about your experience. What's your notice period? What's your salary expectations? Just to really ensure from the start that we align on what we're looking for. And just also, you always have to remember the phone screen is so important. I always tell people, like, if you're busy, if you're stressed, if you don't remember applying for the job, just screen the call, listen to the voicemail. They'll always leave you a voicemail. Go research the ad in the company before you call them back. Or if you have answered, it is absolutely okay to go, oh, I'm just about to hop into a meeting. Is it okay if I call you back in 30 minutes? And then you can run away, prepare, and then jump on the phone when you feel prepared to really talk to them. From the phone screen, if that goes well, you are in for an interview. So we normally do 2 stages of interviews. So the first one is normally a combination of technical and behavioral questions. We need to find out, can you do the role? Do you have the technical skills? But also starting to get a feel for your behavior. How have you handled situations in the past? Can you tell me about a time that this happened? How did you handle it? What was the outcome? We also like to do a little task in the middle that you'll present at the second round. So we always find that it's really important. Yes, so many people can go, oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. But we want to actually see that, being played out. So, for customer support, it might be doing a little typing test. For legal, you might review a contract and like tell us what changes you would make. For operations, you might be doing a short presentation. And for engineering, we actually do a little bit of live coding. So that's kind of, I guess, falling into the second interview. So that's when we really push down. The second one, we also bring in bar raisers. So a bar raiser is someone from the business that might be like, they understand the culture, they're a really good leader, someone that just represents the business really well. And I think it's so important to have a perspective from someone else in the business about candidates, because you might be in a rush to hire someone, and just go, yes, yes, this is the right person. But this other person, they're not in a rush. They just have the best interest of the business at heart. And also for the candidates, I think it's so important to meet other people outside of the team, because that's going to let you know what is the culture truly like. You want to make sure that everyone's being very authentic. So it's really nice sometimes to meet someone that is outside of the team. So we normally do the 2 interviews with a little task in there as well. And then from there, if that goes well, we go to reference checks, and we'll also do a police check as well, just being a fintech business. Security is very important. And also, when you're ISO certified, it's normally a requirement for businesses too.
And what are some red flags you look out for in the interview process? For example,
Mm,
like
I
clothing,
think
body language.
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones initially is when I'm looking at their resume. If their resume doesn't line up with their LinkedIn page, and look, it is fine. Some people, they may have had time off for sickness, they may have been on maternity leave, maybe they just did some short contracts that they want to leave out. But just really making sure before you apply that your LinkedIn page matches your resume. Never be ashamed to have things on there like you went on maternity leave or you were sick. No company should judge you on that. Legally, they should not. So it is absolutely fine to be open and upfront about that. So really making sure that those two align. And then it is definitely about communication for me. I always look for people that are very professional. If you've applied for jobs, make sure that if you're answering your phone, that you are always being courteous and polite and professional. It is. I've had a few people over the years that I've called them about a role, and they've just been like, "Yep, who's this?" And that's just a no for me immediately. I cannot have someone who speaks like that being in our business. So just make sure at all times you're communicating really well, that you're open and transparent. And then I think you just touched upon this of that, but body language is a big one too. So just showing that you're comfortable, making sure that you're not like fidgeting in the interview. If you think you might, cross your hands over, put them on your lap. If you are nervous, it is absolutely okay to ask for water as well. And I've said this in one of our other segments too, but asking questions in the interview is so important. Interviewers want to be asked questions because if you ask them a question, it shows that you're genuinely interested in the role in the business. Do not worry about memorizing questions. You've just sat through an hour-long interview. You've been thinking about different things. So it is absolutely okay to write down your questions on your phone or on some paper and just to go, oh, I've prepared questions. I'm just going to pull them out. Do not worry if that makes you, if you're worried it's going to make you look bad. If anything, it will make you look so well prepared and they will love the fact that you've done that.
And have you ever hired anyone from a different industry background or a different job role in your team? So, for example, an accountant moving into a junior product manager position. And if so, what did that candidate do to really impress you? And then what obstacles have they faced since joining?
That is a great question. I think definitely being in a startup business, we're probably more open to people coming from different backgrounds and areas and stepping into new roles. We're very big that, it's not about your job title and what you've done previously. It's about the skills and your life experience that you can bring to a role. We had a physio that became a software engineer. He had been studying, he had done a lot of online courses. He hadn't gone to uni for it. So I've seen that transition, which was amazing. We've had people go into, and I think this is the other important thing as well, working in tech. I get so many people and they want to work in tech and they go, oh, but I haven't worked in tech before. You do not need to have worked in tech. I think a lot of people just go, oh, that's software engineers, but you can work in tech and work in marketing. You can work in the legal team, in the people and culture team. There's lots of amazing ways that you can work into tech. It's more just about, what knowledge do you have? What can you bring? And can you pivot and adapt? I think the biggest challenge people face is the pace, being adaptable and being resilient as well. I tend to think they're the most important skills that people need in this modern age. You can do anything, but you just have to be able to adapt and be resilient, and you can do anything.
And what questions would you like the candidate to ask in the interview? Is there any
So
particular
many. I
question?
think it's always nice to keep it to around 3 questions, maybe four absolutely max, because you also don't want the interviewers to feel like they're being grilled.
Mm.
One of my favorite questions that I think is so important, and everyone should ask this in an interview, is asking the interviewers why do they work at the company? What is their favorite thing about the company? And kind of flipping it to and going, what is your favorite thing about working here? And what's one of the key challenges that you have working here as well? Um, a great one that I've heard recently is my partner actually, he asked this one in a job interview and he got it from a friend and I was like, that's a great question. He goes, what makes a good software engineer in your books and what makes a great software engineer? Because immediately you're going to find out how do they think, how are you going to be judged? What are those things that they really value and rate? And how have you been seen in that role? So I love that one because it really distinguishes that different way of thinking for the hiring managers.
Mhm.
Asking about the culture is so important. I think at the end of the day, it's important to find out about the team culture, but also the business. What are some of their policies? Do they support women in the workplace? Do they support diversity, equity, and inclusion? What is their parental leave? It is very important to find out all of these things, and it is absolutely okay to ask them as well.
Brilliant. And how can you tell if someone's a good culture fit for your team?
Definitely. So we're interviewing at the moment. So I understand this very well. I think, and once again, it really comes down to, skills are important, having experience is important, but people can be upskilled. We can teach, we can coach. As long as someone shows that they're coachable and moldable, absolutely fine. I think if you show that you're eager to learn, grow, and that you can adapt, the skill set doesn't matter as much. It's really about the type of person you are and those behaviors that you exhibit. So I think key things that I look for, and a lot of hiring managers also look for: someone who's a good communicator. You want someone who is friendly. At the end of the day, we are sitting next to this person for most of the hours of the week. So you want someone that you can work with, but you could also go have lunch with or have a drink with after work. And just having someone who wants to be there, that's excited to be there, that brings good energy. So I think it is really important, when you interview, you need to be authentic to yourself. If you're an introvert, don't go in there trying to be an extrovert. You need to be authentic and you need to be real about who you are. But it's just about showing that, you want to be there, that you do good work, you care about the work that you do, and that you're just a good person.
Brilliant. And do you need, or you've addressed this a fair few times, but I'll officially ask it. Do you need someone to have a degree in order to be considered for them for a role?
No, you do not have to have a degree. I think, as I've mentioned previously, like, depending what field you're in, if you are in, legal, anything medicine related, you might be working at a university as a professor or lecturer, then yes, having a degree can be very important. But I actually believe majority of roles these days, you do not need to have any form of, degrees, official studies. There are so many amazing, great courses you can do online these days. So really, it's just about, it is important to still upskill yourself. You definitely need to be learning, whether you're listening to podcasts, you're doing online courses. You need to show that you can learn and that you're interested in that, but you do not have to have a piece of paper. So many people these days, I would tell them, don't go to uni, just go get your first job. Even if you start as a receptionist or a coordinator or an admin at that company, you'll gain so much hands on experience. And within those 3 to 4 years that someone is at uni, you probably would have had 2 pay increases. You would have bumped up in your experience and your role, and you'll be so much more set up for success than if you sat in a classroom. It's all about getting the hands on experience.
And final one, do you think references are important to making your hiring decision?
Yes, references are very vital. Many companies, and I think security has been a massive one that I think we've all heard about over the past few years. There's been some massive security breaches. I think Medibank Private and Optus. So security is massive for every company. It just used to be your very, very large kind of enterprise businesses that had thousands of employees, but even your mid-sized businesses these days have a lot of security requirements. One you'll sometimes hear about a lot is called an ISO certification. And it's kind of a set of rules and guidelines that companies need to adhere to and they're audited to. So you need to ensure that you're hitting all of those marks. And part of that is actually doing references for people. So references are essential because these companies are going to need them. And it's really important that you have well-spoken references that, are going to say wonderful things about you. You think that it is common sense that people would only give you the names of people that they're like, oh, they're a great manager, they love me. But I have actually called some references and they're like, no, that person was terrible. I don't know why they gave you my number. Like, we fired them. So if you are, hopefully you haven't had that happen, but if you're giving references, find a manager, find a leader, someone that you've definitely worked with that is going to be like, I love that person. They worked so hard. They're amazing. And I would say as well, always do the right thing. Please, please, please use proper references. Do not get a friend. Do not get someone else. Use the real person, because these days, a lot of people aren't aware, but companies are using software that will check that to make sure that it is actually who you said it is. So it's really important that you are using the correct people, you're giving the right details, but that you find someone that's going to champion you and advocate for you. And just really, if I talk to them on the phone and I go, would you rehire that person? They go, yes, yes. If you weren't hiring them, I would want them right now. So references are so essential.
All right, brilliant. Well, look, thank you for that once again. Really appreciate all your insights you've given us tonight. And yeah, look, all the best with Employee. I really can't wait to see it pop up in the next couple of months.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Yvette. And look, best of luck, everyone. If you ever have recruitment questions, please always feel free to reach out and keep using Career Companion. It's such an amazing tool.
Thanks, Daddy. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.